Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special episode lined up for you guys today.
Yes, we do.
This is, I think coming into, or what, episode 14? Is that what this is? So
Number 14.
Number 14. I feel like I have been the, quote, expert for the first 13 episodes, but today all of that changes with what we're talking about.
Expert may be a strong word here, but a experienced thrower of these discs we're going to be talking about. Our guest today, Dale, has really struggled. I feel like I've walked in his shoes, like looking at his bag here in front of me. I'm like, I've been here. I've thrown all these discs. I feel like I've put all these discs in my bag at one point. And, I had this giant gaping hole in my approach / mid-range game. So I've been there before, Robbie. So hopefully I can give some words of wisdom to Dale today.
Yeah, and for those of you, we had Dale is a podcast host. We had his partner Rob, his podcast partner Rob on a few episodes ago, and it feels like a few episodes ago. At this point, it probably was like 6 or 7 guests ago. Time is just flying as we go through this. So we want to make sure before we bring Dale in, and we'll do that here in just a second, just want to say thank you so much for y'all continuing to listen, continuing to support it. Like, it's almost hard for me to remember my weekly routine without In the Bag. And I don't know about you, Brad. It feels very natural to be having this.
Yeah, it's just a normal part of life. And again, just hearing you all when we go to Charleston or, in the store here or just the comments online means the world to us. So thank you for the support. We're doing our best to give some insight and help everybody out there. So again, constructive feedback's always welcome if you'd like. I know a lot of people have been requesting watching me throw, so maybe we'll get there in a couple episodes. I think I'm ready for the challenge, Robbie. Come on.
Let's get the camera crew out there. It is worth it. Well, y'all, we thank you. Like Brad said, let us know what we can be doing to improve. We are happy to take feedback, but you know what else we're happy to do? Bring an amazing guest. Why don't we bring Dale in, shall we?
Let's do it.
All the way from across the pond, we have Dale with us. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, my man. Very well indeed.
Come on. Well, Dale, we are going to give you a chance at the end to give your plugs for all of your channels because we want to make sure, we are supporting other amazing disc golf podcasts while we're here. So very excited for you to give those plugs. And y'all just go ahead and get those phones ready to be able to follow at the end of all of this. Well, Dale, we do want to make sure our audience does get to know you besides just your podcasting abilities. We want to get to know your game a little bit. So we have these common questions we ask, starting off with, how far do you throw for backhand for golf distance?
I'd say on average 90 meters.
Okay. So my conversion was again in my head. That's like 270, 300 feet?
So 90, is it 93 meters is 300 feet, isn't it? So it's just under 300 foot.
Okay. Awesome. I'm pulling up on my other screen. Meter to feet conversion. Bang. We always got to love it. Yeah. So, okay. So just under 300. Awesome. About forehand. How do you do on forehand?
This is gonna mess with you. So I throw forehand 100 meters.
Okay. So about 325, 330.
Forehand. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do you rely on your forehand a lot more, or it's just farther throwing for you?
It's just further throwing. I do throw it quite a bit, but I wouldn't say I'm like that player like the Sarah Hokum or whatever who could then throw it on a turnover. I can't do that. I can throw it on a really nice hyzer flip, but I wouldn't be able to say, I'm going to go and play this course all forehand. Mm-hmm. I still need backhand.
Okay. Chandler Kramer. Did you get to watch any of the European Open?
Yeah. Watched it all.
Oh, Chandler Kramer
he's got a very good forehand.
Blowing my mind. And also his routine before he would throw, I was just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get how...
He almost like takes the knee and then goes.
Dude, Chandler, if for some reason you're listening to this podcast, please reach out. I would love to have a whole conversation with you about just your game in its entirety. You were the most fascinating part of the whole event to me, and that is with Paul and Eagle doing what they were doing. Chandler for
no, he was quality.
Okay, cool. 325, 330 feet, 100 meters, love it. If we take you to the putting green and we said, all right, you are 15 feet out, 25 feet out, 30 or 40 feet out. How many are you making? 10 putts at each.
15 foot, making all of them. 25 foot, making 80% of them.
Okay.
And then 40 foot, probably only going to make 30-40%.
Okay. Are you a spin putter or a push putter? Or like a spusher?
I'm a spin putter.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I'd say more of a spush, actually. But I used to have a really good circle 2 putt. I'd actually prefer to be like 11 metres out. And I think since I got, obviously with Disc Dot, I've done a lot more putting practice, but all of that's been inside my garden at 10 metres. So I've become really, really confident inside the circle, but my whole circle 2 putt has gone. So I get to it and I'm like, this could go anywhere. It could go in the basket, but it could also go 20 foot past.
Absolutely. The spin putt life, right? Super high percent chance of making it, but if you miss, she gone. Yeah, that is awesome. Now, Dale, what would you say is the strongest part of your game?
My forehand, definitely. I've just introduced a hyzer flip onto my forehand, so I've done a lot of practice around, taking those understable discs with a forehand. So yeah, for sure, that would be my strongest point.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is a very unique approach. I don't think we've had anyone, Brad, that I can think of who said like forehand is their strength.
No, maybe. Oh my gosh, names are escaping me now. The Origin episode. He said he was Sean.
Oh, Sean.
Yeah,
way
he
back
said
in the beginning.
his forehand was strong, but that's maybe the only other one.
Yeah, we've had a lot of my approach is strong or my putting game is strong. And I do think before we dive in, I just think it is very true what you're saying. I even walked through that journey myself of we tell people like if you're not making 15 or 20 foot putts, you need to practice those over and over again. But it is helpful. I don't think you need to spend an hour practicing your circle 2 putts, but I do think 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe of your if you putt for an hour. Just get that circle 2 putt stretched out so at least it feels like you have somewhat of an idea what you're doing because you're going to find yourself in circle 2 at some point during your round.
Oh, we're amateurs. We're going to spend most of our time in circle 2 and then the circle 1 putt's going to be a bullseye because we've just missed our circle 2 putt.
That's
Truth. But and we know for those bullseye putts are still it hurts my heart almost as much as I'm sure it hurts the person putting when I play with beginners and then they miss like a 12-footer and I can just feel they're disappointed because I'm watching them. They're also disappointed because they just there's just so much disappointment going around. So do practice those, but make sure you're practicing the others as well. Well, Dale, you have a super interesting bag, a bag that a lot of people think I would never have. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Unless this company reaches out to me and says, hey, Robbie, let's do this thing, I probably will never have this kind of a bag. And that is you rock a Discraft only bag. So if you are a listener...
Well there is a hurricane in there.
A DJ.
There's DJ in there.
Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is.
A Discraft manufactured bag.
There we go.
Is that a little better? Yeah. So...
We'll have that.
Now,
and we all know that I'm not sponsored by Discraft either, so
that's okay.
It's completely by my choice.
A man can dream. So, you have this bag. You have 20 discs in your bag. I made an assumption that you have 2 of your putting putters in there. That's what rounds us up to 20. Okay, so you've got 20 discs in there. I want to start. We're going to go like a little weird on this because we're going to focus on mid ranges is where a lot of our conversation is going to go.
Yep.
But I find the top half of your bag highly interesting. So we're gonna spend a short amount of time with you have a Zone, a Ringer GT, and then 2 Challenger SSs that you putt with.
Yeah.
Do you throw the Challengers?
No.
Okay. So walk me through differences between the Zone and the Ringer.
So, I was finding my Zone, I couldn't, for those shorter approach shots, I couldn't get comfortable. Just the little flip forehands, I really couldn't get to terms with them. I was either gunning them past it or I was hyzering out really quickly because I was putting too much hyzer on them. I saw the Ringer GT and I was like, do you know what? the numbers are a little bit slower, but it's got the thumb track. I wonder how I'm going to feel with that. Now, to me, the Ringer GT is a Discraft pig because it feels like a pig. It's got the thumb track. It's sort of the same sort of speed and same sort of stability. But now it feels so much more comfortable in my hands. Those little flick shots and like the little, little turnover S-line shots. So it's just made me feel confident that I know that I can flick it into the hole. And yeah, I've made more hole outs from like sort of just outside circle and stuff with that than I ever did my zone.
Okay.
And I love a zone.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I tell people often, I think one of the reasons the zone gets the love that it does is because, to me, the zone flies like a mid-range. So when you don't put enough speed on it, the mid-range overstability hooks in for you. So on those shorter approaches, unless you have like a jawbreaker, and Brad or both of y'all can tell me if that's more what I'm thinking, like the more baseline, less premium plastic ones have less of a bite at the end.
Mm-hmm. So that's the zone. I've got obviously a few zones in my bag, but the jawbreaker zone is, I own, I think, 17 zones. And the jawbreaker, I've got that and the glow jawbreaker from Ledgestone last year, but the one that you just showed up, Brad, but they're money in this country. You can't buy them. They've been in stock once this year.
Wow. I totally keep forgetting, like, the whole we're spoiled over, like, in the States.
I think I have 260 jawbreaker zones in Stockdale, so hit me up after.
Yeah, we'll do.
Flexing on them. I love it. Well, I will say I can't confirm your Ringer GT is the Discraft pig theory, but I definitely, being an open bag person, I want to spend a video that's basically like, can I replace my pigs? And I just want to put every thumb track option up against it. Mm-hmm. So that video's coming. Be prepared for it. So awesome. Well, I just wanted to hear that. The one thing that I would suggest, like, as an alternative to this, and I'm sure we'll even talk about mid ranges, I would love to see a neutral throwing putter in your bag. And that could be like a premium plastic Fierce. It could be a base plastic Fierce. You could a Luna.
So I actually have a Crystal Fierce.
Okay.
I actually have a Crystal Fierce. I've thrown it. I just really struggle up until what? A couple of weeks back when I was in my parent-in-law's garden throwing putters in their garden, just practicing. I've never really been able to throw a putter like a drive until because I've always tried to power grip it.
Yeah.
But I was throwing the Fierce and I was throwing the Challenger SS in the garden because that's all I could really throw to get some sort of just some reps in. And I was fan gripping it a bit more, and it was working. So maybe I could put one back in the bag and see how it goes, because I think it was just a confidence thing. I wouldn't stand up to a shot and think, do you know what, I can put this close, because it never really gone right for me.
Yeah,
I get that.
Totally fair. Yeah, and Brad, you're a fan gripper for life.
Yeah,
up through mid ranges.
Yeah, when we get to like 8 speed, that's when I stop fan gripping. But I fan grip everything up to 8 speed.
Nice.
Yeah, I just feel like it gives me the accuracy. It almost forces me not to like power into it so hard, and it kind of reminds me of the finesse I need to have when I'm throwing those type of discs. So we'll talk more about that later, Dale, but that's kind of like a big takeaway that I had as far as like working on my mid-range game a little bit, because I'm looking at this flight chart for your bag, and I told Robbie this before we started. It's like a flashback to what my bag was like before I started this podcast. So a lot of lessons learned I want to hopefully share with you and everybody listening out there when we get to that part.
Awesome.
So, okay, yeah. Let's dive into the meat of these drivers, though. So you've got 13 fairway/distance drivers in the bag. Lot of speed. Now, you throw your forehand farther than you throw your backhand. So when I initially look at this bag and hearing that information, I would think, okay, he doesn't like forehanding mid-ranges very often. And so in order to lead on that farther thrower, he's got to have some faster discs in his bag. Does that feel? I'm seeing a lot of head nodding.
Completely correct.
Okay.
Yeah, very correct.
So that makes total sense. Like I totally get that. What drivers are you throwing on backhand, fairway or distance?
Scorch. for sure.
Okay.
That'll be my sort of go-to if I really want to get as much power and much distance I can on like an S line flex shot. It'd be my Scorch.
Okay.
If I've got like a hole, for example, where I play, I've got a massive tree in front of me. It needs a huge backhand sort of spike hyzer. I'd throw my Forces. So they're quite beaten now, so they feel really nice on sort of that hyzer, spike hyzer holes. And then again, backhand, I'm throwing my Raptors on the backhand, but only on an approach, so sort of a skip shot or something I don't need quite a force to get there. So yeah, they'd be the main ones I'm throwing backhand.
So
Okay.
I have a question here. So when I have the exact same scenario that you're talking about, Dale, I tend to take out my Raptor to try to get me, or I have a Raptorius, which tends to be a little more stable than my typical Z Raptor. That's what I'm going to if I'm trying to do that spike hyzer around a tree, or if I'm using doing a thumber or something like that, that I really need that pan of the disc to happen. So what's the difference between your Raptor and your Force? I mean, if we look on the flight chart, they're in the same row, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or the same column, if you will. So what do you feel like the Force has over your Raptor?
So the two Raptors can sound really silly. The Raptors I have are very flat because I like on a forehand. I like my forehand discs, to be flat. My Force has got that little bit more of a dome to it, and it just feels comfortable on a backhand. I can get my hands into the rim of the disc. I know I've got a nice strong grip on it, but I've also got my thumb almost like rested on the dome, and it just feels that when I'm coming through that I'm getting more power, more snap, because it feels comfortable in my hand.
Okay. And then what about the Onyx and the Force? Again, we're approaching all these are in the same column in this flight chart.
So the two Onyxes I have, I've been really nicely beaten in. They're a little bit more of a stable version of a Undertaker now.
Okay.
So I can trust an Onyx because I've hit so many trees of it. I can trust it to sort of flip up a little bit, and because it's got that much glide, because it's so overstable, it's never going to stay in the air that much. But because it's now beaten in, I feel I'm getting a really nice flight out of it. Because of that 6 glide it's got, whereas the Force is going to want to get to the ground as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. So, and the reason I'm asking, Robbie, tell me if I'm mistaken here, but what I've tried to step back and do for my game deal is like a Raptor. So the Raptorius, for instance, it feels fine in my hand for backhand, so I get the feel thing that you're talking about. But I know I don't have to kill this Raptor to get the distance that I want around that tree and still have a reliable fade. For me, if I'm going to that Force, I'm going to feel like I have to kill it, and that's going to take my accuracy from 80% probably down to 50%. So that's the only reason I even ask that question. Because I'm now, instead of disking up to do something like that, I'm actually disking down a little bit and making sure I don't have to kill it to get around something. I'm not sacrificing distance for accuracy, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what you say there, because this week I set myself a challenge, and before obviously coming onto this podcast, I took every disc above a 10 speed out of my bag. So I took the Forces out, I took the Scorch out, I took the Zeus out, I took the Hurricane out, and I just played the round at my local course, throwing my Undertakers, my Onyx, my Raptors, instead of throwing those high speed discs. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I shot exactly the same as I usually would, but I felt a little bit more accurate.
Yeah.
But I did then find that on my forehand, I wasn't as confident, because I'm I know I've got the ability to throw those higher speed discs on a forehand, and then those holes where I would usually throw, I'm I don't know how this is going to react. And I think that's why I lost strokes, but other holes I was gaining them.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any insight on that, Robbie?
Yeah, so lots of times when I have a new player, I work at a local shop in town, and I'll have players come in and I'll say all right, what do you use this for? And 9 times out of 10, when they pull out a Zeus or a Hurricane or something like that, I can tell as they even as they're holding the disc and talking about the disc, I can tell they're a forehand dominant player, because it is way easier to get the rotations out of your forehand to get that disc up to speed. So that's not me saying oh yeah, noob alert. Like that, it's just a fact. It is way easier to throw, and that for a lot of people, my brother is one of those people that when I could match his backhand distance or his forehand distance with my backhand, that is the moment that we were no longer playing the same game, because for him it was like he had to be throwing, like you said, those faster discs to like keep up with his forehand speed. And that's also, I think that's a touch issue a little bit, because the forehands are less, they're more torque resistant with those higher speed discs. My big thing is, I think if you're forehand dominant, or if your forehand is your distance dominant shot, I don't necessarily see an issue having those faster discs if you're using them for forehands. Like, because it's a shot that exists in your game, you're getting natural flight out of it. That's all a comfort thing. The Onyx, I like that we spent a lot of time talking about the Onyx, because you said it just flies like a more stable Undertaker. Yeah. So for me, my question would be, when you're throwing the Onyx, I actually had a moment where I had an Onyx in my bag for a while, and I found that I was living between where I could throw a 7-speed for me, which you don't have any 7 speeds, but would be my version of an Undertaker, what I have in my bag. Mm-hmm. I was having a hard time. When was I throwing the Undertaker, or when was I coming off of a Wraith, or I'm coming off of that other driver? And so I just had this mold sitting in there for very niche shots, and I felt I was going to be more confident if I was, hey, I throw Undertakers more often. If I want a more overstable Undertaker, I bet they make it in a Big Z plastic, or a heavier, a more aggressive plastic, like I guess you could call it. Yeah. So
titanium.
You're not having the mold. You're keeping it to one mold with, you already have 2 Undertakers in the bag, so why not lean on those? And then if you need the Onyx flight, that's where you can look to a Scorch or something like that. So I thought that was super interesting. 2 other discs that I want to touch on real fast, and then I want to let y'all go on the mid ranges. What is the Passion and the Heat? What are those doing in there?
Heat's my roller disc, so it's really beaten. It's unstable as it is. It has been in my bag since, I think, the second week of when I started playing.
Come on.
So it's always been there, and I can throw it out flat and it's just going to turn. And I know it's my roller disc. Passion, and I tell you, it's a very particular shot on the course that I play. So that's why it's in there, because there's a hold up I play. It's downhill. It's 92 meters. There's a massive tree in front of you. What I can do on my Passion is I can forehand it on a flex around the tree completely. It then rides up to flat and then comes back, and sort of that is the shot that I play it on.
Okay.
And that's why it's there.
Have you ever tried throwing one of your Undertakers on that line?
Yeah, I did. Went too far.
Okay. Interesting.
I used to throw Zeus, and then that went too far. So I threw Zeus, went in the water. I've kept coming down until I've got to the Passion, and then it works perfect for me every time.
Okay, awesome. Well, and the good news is you're going to get better, Dale. And soon the Passion's going to go too far for you. And when that happens, we might have to be throwing a mid-range at it, which is a perfect transition.
It's scary to think throwing a mid-range on a forehand.
Hey,
it's scary,
and I'm with you. It takes time to get used to it, but I will tell you, when you step up, and if I see someone forehand a mid-range that isn't like super overstable, that is the moment that I look at their game and I go, all right, they're a good forehand player. If you can forehand mids, you have a good forehand. You can forehand anything. Because I don't even think some people are like, yeah, if you can forehand putters, you must be good. It's like, nope. I think putters are easier to forehand than mids, and it's like
the only way I can forehand a mid range is for a turnover. Is like a turnover shot. So for it to go right to left. That's the only forehand mid range that I'll throw.
Yeah, and I believe in this so much. What's the disc that I've had you forehand a lot, Brad?
Is it the uplink? Are we talking about the uplink?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's a very unstable disc, and that has taught me a lot of touch. I'll be honest. It's helped my off the tee forehand. Just I think slowing down and really understanding the mechanics and where everything's supposed to be, like it's really taught me some touch. So it's definitely worth it.
So there's time. There's time, Dale. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. But we can't have you forehanding mid-ranges if you only have 3 mid-ranges in your bag. So let's talk mid-ranges. I want Dale, how about you tell us what you use those 3 mid-ranges you have for, what they are, what you use them for. And then Brad, walk us through your experience. What are we missing?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I've got Buzz GT, a Buzz, and a Meteor.
Meteor, okay.
And I've got a Wasp as well. I didn't have I've got a Wasp.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I've got 4.
So I'm just looking, again, I'm looking at, and you all can see this on the screen if you're watching, audio listeners. I'm sorry, I'll try to talk through this. But there's this giant gaping hole that I'll address in a second in the mid-range, that 5-speed to 7-speed department, in the 2 to 4 overstability range, 2 to 5, I guess, really. I have a recommendation for that. I'll do that at the end because that's a tough spot for me still, really, to fill in. I couldn't be honest and say that's something I have in my bag right now. I want it and I see the reason for it now, but I didn't maybe even 3 months ago. So I'm looking at your Buzz GT. I'm going to guess that is 100% a hand feel thing for you.
So I got it on a win. So someone messaged me and said, "Hey man, I know you like Discraft. I've been given the opportunity to get these Buzz GTs. I couldn't find a review for them anywhere, so I couldn't really watch anything about them. I thought, do you know what? Let's try them. I can't get them anywhere. Honestly, I cannot stress how good that disc is. It is dead straight. I've never thrown a mid-range as straight as I throw this disc. And do you know what? The thumb track, it was weird to start with. Don't even notice it now. But it's a confidence thing. I know if I pick up that disc, I'll throw a good shot.
Mm-hmm. I will say, as a quick addendum, I don't throw a lot of Discraft, but I have, like, for a while before I went back to the open bag, I would have a small stock of Discraft discs in my collection that if someone wanted to play a Discraft only round, and a Buzz GT is the mid-range that I have in that Discraft only bag. So yeah. I'm team Buzz GT all day.
So the reason I haven't mentioned the hand feel thing is because I have a disc that I cannot seem to take out of my bag. I take it out and then I just miss it and I put it back in every time. It's a Banger GT. And it's really a hand feel thing for me. And I think it's a combination of like me throwing a fan grip, and my Banger GT goes laser beam dead straight 150 yards, or sorry, feet, 150 feet every time, no farther, no less. It's like the most reliable disc I've ever thrown. But, I mean, it's almost like a Frisbee, like a normal Frisbee, so I think that's maybe why. But that groove track on the thumb feels really good. Do you still have the Impact in your bag? Did you say you do have the Impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Love an Impact. I think I'm probably one of the only players in the UK that bags them.
Really? So both of my sons have Impacts in their bag, and I just wonder, why do you keep the Impact in there versus the Buzz? What's the difference for you?
So I really like the feel of the Impact. As you know, it's got the cross hatchings around the side. I've got a pre-flight number ESP, so it's it's old. It's a really nice feeling. I did bag the Foundation Special Edition Impact for a while, but I found that to be. I think the numbers, although it's an Impact, it's a bit more. It's a more stable run of Impacts because the one I've got, I can put it on like a sort of 45-degree angle. It's going to flip up. It's a really nice woods disc. Yeah. Whereas I don't really have that with my Buzz, or I haven't until I got the Buzz GT. Because the Buzz that I've got is the Tour Series Buzz, and it's a little bit more stable than your normal sort of Buzz.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So I'm glad we're talking about like the hand feel, because I talk about that a lot on the podcast. Like that's a big thing for me. I think even in like putters, approach disc, mid ranges, because again, I think it's a lot more touch. I've really slowed down my form when I'm throwing putters and mid ranges to make sure I'm more accurate, more smooth with them. And like, it's funny. I just noticed like how things feel in my hand more in this gap. It seems like maybe where the rim width is a little more thick. I don't know. And it seems like there's a lot of different variations. I mean, like here's a Wasp I have in my hand. We have that really thick bead on the Wasp, which I've thrown the Wasp. I like how it flies, but I cannot stand it, how it feels when it comes out of my hand. Like, I want to like it so much, but I just can't because it doesn't feel very good. And because of that weird feeling out of my hand, I find myself choking the throw off at the end. Like, definitely. I'm early releasing it every time, which is really interesting. And then you have like the zombie that doesn't have like the bead on the bottom. Maybe maybe a micro bead. We can maybe call it that.
Yeah.
Again, it's a 6-speed. Yeah, exactly. It's a 6-speed, but it has like no glide. I can't get this thing to go the way I want it to either. You're going to hear me say, I don't like this disc. I don't like this disc. That's really this gap is really why I kind of started in like different manufacturers. But I did find a disc recently that I think is going to fit where we're going to talk about in a second. Meteor, you mentioned a Meteor. I bagged a Meteor for a very long time. Yeah. I wanted the Meteor to be in my bag so much. I think there's beautiful ones. I have a Foundation titanium Meteor. I love how it feels. It would not fly the way I needed it to fly. Again, I'm trying to fit very specific gaps in my bag. And I just could not get it to be that nice, beautiful, like understable, like turn that I needed it to.
Mine took ages to be into what it is now, to be in a proper Meteor.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just impatient, I guess. Maybe that's probably part of it. But I just wanted something I could grab off the shelf and throw that way. And I know a lot of people have seasoned Meteors. In no way do I think it's a bad disc. I just could not get it to do what I wanted it to do. I have the Soul here in front of me now for people that can't see it. The Soul for me, I threw for a while as well. But, again, having bigger hands, I just cannot get a comfortable grip on the Soul. I liked how it flew, but I just didn't have the accuracy because I couldn't get it. Have you tried a Soul, Dale? How do you feel about it?
I haven't thrown a Soul. It's something I've always looked at, but I've never got round to thinking, I'll grab one of these now.
Yeah, and it's really funny. I'm mentioning all like the neutral, slightly stable, or understable mid ranges, right? Because that's what I kept trying to fill when I didn't have a forehand. But so I have a Malta here. This is kind of going to be the first thing I kind of talk through with you, Dale. So my wife is a almost forehand only player, and she throws a Malta all over the place on forehand. It has the stability to handle that torque, so she can really lay into it. It is a very, very stable disc. I didn't love it on forehand, but I was throwing it pretty decent on backhand. My only struggle with it on backhand is I couldn't get it to really get much distance.
Do you find the numbers
really
true?
Want to stay in the air. On the Malta, no, I don't even feel like it's a 4 glide. This thing does not want to stay in the air at all. Now, on forehand, I've seen my wife throws it very far. So it must be some sort of ratio between like rotation to get it to like actually, but it's like if you really, it's like an underpowered truck, right? You can't haul a lot with an underpowered truck, but if you have the proper power truck, you can haul a lot of weight. It may be like that sort of ratio. So what do you think, Dale? You've obviously thrown it.
Yeah, I've thrown a Malta about a year ago, and yeah, I was throwing it backhand. To be fair, I didn't throw it forehand, but I found it not to be as stable as the flight number suggested. I had a 2020 Tour Series Hammers Wasp, which I then found to be more overstable than the Malta.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. So I've really gone through most of the disc, and I know there's some other mid ranges I haven't mentioned. Right, there's some older molds that aren't really like in everyone's top of mind here, but. It was actually funny. Hunter he did a live stream in the warehouse and going through some of the ledgestone drops and things like that. And I don't remember what I was doing, but I heard him talking on the live stream. He's like, "Oh, hey, Brad, you need to try this." So now this one's a pretty sweet. Thanks, Silas, for dyeing this for me. It's a Sci Guy dye, but this is a Nebula.
Ezra swears.
What's interesting about the who does
Ezra?
Oh yeah. I have to agree with Ezra. I mean, this disc has like changed my game. So my primary, really the only mid-range I was throwing for a long time. Again, I had the Meteor in there, but I didn't really trust it. The Buzz, I just had a regular Z Buzz. It was one of the first discs I ever bought. It was my workhorse. I could do a slight turnover shot with it. I did have to kind of force it over. I could throw it really straight. I could hyzer flip it a little bit. It's the first disc I could do that with. And then if I really wanted to cheat it, I could probably get it to hyzer out if I wanted to. But as I'm throwing these other discs, you know, I got very frustrated weekly, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I threatened to take it out. I was like, it's gone. Like my oldest disc, and it's gone out of my bag because, you know, it's hard to throw all those shots with one disc. You know, you can't be really good at one shot if you're trying to throw it all with one disc. I mean, Robbie, is that sound somewhat like intelligent, or am I completely
I mean, there are very few discs that just are so perfect they can do literally everything. I mean, that's why when people look at our bags and they look at disc golf, they're like, why do you need so many Frisbees? Can't you just throw one? It's like, bruh, you don't even know. You don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah, so this Nebula, it's Big Z, and number one, I love how it feels in my hand. Again, you listeners on video here, and sorry for people that are on audio only, but the Nebula has this nice, I don't know, groove around the whole edge of the disc. And again, I'm throwing this on fan grip, so it perfectly fits my finger. You can see it just kind of nestles right in there. So it is perfect. Like my hand fits perfectly in it. Also, what's really interesting about, and I don't know if all Nebulas are like this because I haven't thrown any other ones but the Big Z Ledgestone. But the underside of this disc, you can maybe even see it. It's kind of rough. It's not smooth at all. It kind of has some grip to it. Think of your Impact, Dale, how it has kind of the cross hatching. It's not like that. I don't know how to even describe this. Maybe almost like a pavement kind of, like how it has just that little bit of the rough top of it. But it has some grip to it. So I don't feel like my fingers are slipping. Like it has some real grip on it. So it feels very comfortable. Even if I'm sweating out there on the course or whatever, I don't feel like this is ever going to slip out of my hand. I feel like I have that controlled fan grip. And it is not so stable that it's not going to keep in the air for me. It says it has 4 glide. I would argue this particular one is more like 6. Like this really, if I get it spinning nice out of my hand, it flies a long way. I mean, I can almost hit 300 feet with this mid-range. And what I love about it is it does what I want my buzz to do, which is go really straight for a long time and give me a consistent fade. At the end. That's really what I want. And that's what the Nebula does for me. And I think even though like the flight numbers of the Nebula 5.4 negative 0.52, that's what it says. I really think the Nebula would fit right in that pocket where you're missing something, Dale, where you can have like a reliable fade at the end, but you can find yourself getting some distance, and then you experimenting with your fan grip. In my opinion, it's a great disc to fan grip, just because of how it's made. Again, your back fingers are not slipping because there is some grit to the disc on the bottom, and I felt a lot of discs in the warehouse. I don't know of any other disc like that, to my knowledge. I'm not saying there's not, but it is gritty. And all of them I felt are like this, not just one. They're all gritty on the back. And then again, like the track along the edge of the rim of the disc is very comfortable for that fan grip. So, and I do feel like I can hit this with some power, and it's not going to turn over on me. And that's really where I struggle with all the Discraft mid ranges. Again, I named a lot of straight to understable mid ranges, and I always felt afraid of them a little bit. But this one, I could throw in a touch shot that I need to go like 250 if I want to, and count on the fade out, or I can hit this hard if I need to, go really straight. It'll actually, depending on if I give it 80% power or so, it will turn a little bit, just a little bit, and come back and do a consistent fade. Nice. So, in my opinion, Dale, if you have not tried the Nebula, I'd love to send you one. And I really think that's this gap that you're missing, that slightly overstable mid-range that you can still punch a little bit on backhand and have a consistent fade out, but also have like a pretty straight flight.
Definitely. I'm excited to try something brand new, something I have never thrown before. Yeah. My only panic, and this is, I'm excited to try the disc, is that when I love it, I'm not going to be able to replace it.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, hey, you have a hookup here, so I may have to send you one or two. I believe it enough. I'll at least send you 2. I'll say
amazing.
that. Again, I will warn you. When I think I've like maybe talked this up enough that you're not going to be shocked. When I grabbed this disc, I literally said, "Ew." So when hunters, I was like, ugh, I did not love it. But after I like felt it for a minute and thought about it, I've really grown to love it. And I've really grown to lean on it. I will grab this before I grab my old trusty Buzz.
I'm excited.
So if that tells you anything.
I'm excited to try it.
Very unique disc. Very unique disc for sure. But I think you need something a little unique to push you out of your comfort zone to get you to fill that gap. Again, to bring in Robbie's point earlier, as your distance grows and your fairway drivers start flying too far for you, which is kind of where I'm at too, you're going to need to like really tune in that mid-range game, which is, again, I'm here with you. That's what I'm
on a journey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the truth. We'll call it that. That sounds very positive.
I think there's a lot of beauty to that as you're improving. Really, it's going to be a cool moment where you step up to it. Like, I forget who I was having this conversation with, but we were talking about we were playing somewhat of a shorter course. And the hole length for the beginner that I was playing with, they were like, yeah, I have to throw a fairway at this hole. And I was throwing a putter at that hole, and we were living in the realm of like, I'm throwing the putter at 70, 80% power, but when they were throwing a fairway at 30, 40% power, it's not flying like it's supposed to fly, so it just gets
I've been
so
in that exact position as that beginner. I've been there where my friend I'm playing with is throwing a putter, and I'm not ashamed of it. I wouldn't do it now, obviously, but it was literally I think it was a 50, 60 metre downhill throw, really easy, and I'm out there throwing a T-bird 3.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? 8 speed, overstable disc, because I couldn't get the distance. Nowadays, I'm not throwing that. But do you know what I mean? I've been that beginner, and it's hard because you're like, how are you throwing a putter as far as I throw an 8-speed disc? But as your form gets better and you work on it, obviously you progress.
Yeah, and that's I think, and we've talked about it on our podcast before. I think a reason a lot of beginners don't lean on mid ranges is because they feel like I have to have the distance. I have to like get so far. But if you dial in your mid range game as you're improving, it's not like you have to go backwards to then pick up a mid-range game.
No.
You'll have it with you the entire way. It's the same way if I was teaching someone to play golf, I wouldn't take 7-irons out of their bag and say, hey, you can't have a 7-iron. Good luck. No, it's a reliable club in your game for a reason. So I'm super pumped for you,
brand new
Dale.
disc I ever bought was a Blister Pro. 13503. First disc I ever bought brand new.
Hi.
Blister Pro.
The first Discraft disc I ever bought was a Nuke because it said maximum distance driver, and with it being a cool name, I was like, yeah, I want to throw max distance. I want to drop bombs on these people. Terrific. It's probably...
into the field thinking I was going to throw miles.
Probably why I don't like Discraft as much as other brands is because the Nuke, I just got it too early. So that's okay. Discraft, don't worry. We're coming back around to you. I got multiple Discraft discs in the bag now, so... Dale, super pumped for you, man. Super grateful for you coming on,
me too.
And I very much am looking forward to hearing how this Nebula flies for you.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it flies. I'm really excited.
Come on. Well, Brad's going to get this into the mail for you, and we look forward to having you on a future episode, sir, to see how it goes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for coming by. We'll see you soon. Man, it was a different pace, Brad, getting to have you just really drive the recommendation slot. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. It did feel nice knowing what I was kind of talking about a little bit. So be nice in the comments. Tried to get through a lot there, so I know it went a little quickly. But if you haven't checked out the Nebula, please check it out. Highly recommend that disc for sure.
I really do believe that, especially, I didn't realize Ezra was preaching it. I'm a firm believer that some of our pros do have some pretty large influence when it comes to what's popular and what's not. So if Ezra's preaching it, maybe this isn't the last time we see a run of Nebulas in the near future.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Well, we did not have the chance to. I completely blanked because I'm a silly person and didn't give Dale a chance to plug his socials. So we have links in the description below. But for our audio listeners, you can find Dale at Amside @AMSIDE_Dale. That is AMSIDE_Dale in Instagram. And then you can find their podcast over at the Am-Side Podcast. So it's fantastic content. They have some incredible interviews. You're definitely going to want to go check it out.
Yeah, and congratulations, Dale. I think he just got married, right, Robbie? So congratulations to him and his wife as well.
Yeah.
I meant to mention that earlier. So, hey, before we jump off here, Robbie, I'm going to give a little warehouse update. Ironic, we didn't plan this, which is kind of funny, but I'm wearing one of the new shirts that Foundation's dropping, and Robbie is as well for video listeners. But we have a Bogey Bro retro tee that's released, and then an American flag stamp Foundation logo tee that dropped last week. We still have some of those left, so make sure you check those out. I'll show this. I think I'm allowed. Oh, well. Cloudbreaker 3s. Ooh. So they're not coming out this week. They're coming out next week, but we got a lot of them, so make sure you jump over and catch those next week. The Westside Disc Bear comes out this week as well. It has released before this podcast airs. We got a bunch of new Prodigy discs in. Some of those are releasing this week as well, with some new molds, new stamps, new plastics. Hey, Prodigy's coming back. I didn't love them when I first started, but this new plastic and new mold, this remold, feel great. So make sure you check out those. Discraft, we talked about the Nebula. We still have several of those big Z ones left. A bunch of Jawbreaker zones too. These feel great. We have a ton of them. So make sure you check them out. A bunch of different collars and stamps. That's about it. Maybe the Innova restock will be in. Maybe it won't by the time this airs. If not, it's on the way. So including a bunch of factory store stuff like the new Halo bosses. We've got several of those as well.
Come on. Sounds like some incredible plastic that you guys need to be checking out over at FoundationDiscs.com. So make sure we are grateful. If it wasn't for y'all checking them out, we wouldn't be here recording a podcast right now.
That's true.
So as you're finding those awesome discs, we hope that the next amazing disc for your game is soon to be found. And remember, as always, if it's good,
please keep it in the bag. We'll see you next week.